Well, I hate to break it to you, everybody, but I firmly believe that Trump is not going to fulfill many or even any of his promises that he made on the campaign trail. And the reason this is the case is because the bond market is not going to let him do so. Donald Trump, while he is a very charismatic, interesting, hilarious individual, and I'm happy that he's president instead of DEI Kamala, a lot of the promises that he made that you're expecting to happen are not going to come to fruition. And here's why. So if you look at the macro environment, and I'm not an economist, I'm not a macro guy, but I have a basic understanding. And what's really striking to me is the fact that the Federal Reserve is cutting short-term interest rates, but the long end of the curve, 10 years, 30-year bonds, are seeing rates and yields go up. And what that means is the bond market is reacting to expectations of future inflation brought on by the new administration coming into office. And there's a lot of issues with Trump's agenda that are fiscally irresponsible and are inflationary. As a matter of fact, basically everything that he wants to do will be inflationary and it will be fiscally irresponsible. So first of all, the bond market sees that Trump wants to raise tariffs. Tariffs are just a tax on imports, okay? A foreign company manufactures something and sends it to America. And generally that's a good thing because the consumer can get something made overseas for cheaper than they can get, and probably even better than they can get in the United States. That's trade, okay? Some countries are good at some things and some countries are good at others. But a tariff, what it seeks to do is to protect domestic industry. If you have some fat American greaseball that makes washing machines in his company, and after all the wages that he has to pay and all the taxes that he has to pay for our government programs, he can only sell them for $1,000 a pop. That's the minimum he can sell them for to actually achieve like any kind of profit. Well, overseas, you could pay somebody a fraction of the wages and ship it, make it, and then ship it to the United States, and maybe they can sell it for $800. Well, the tariff simply raises the cost of goods that were manufactured in foreign countries that come into the United States. So right off the bat, if you think about that, well, now if I want to buy a washing machine, instead of paying $800, now I have to pay $1,000. And if you apply this to the whole economy, it almost seems like prices might go up. That's interesting. So that's inflationary, okay? That's at least my basic understanding of it. So tariffs, yes, inflationary. Then Trump wants to deport millions and millions of undocumented immigrants, which I agree with 100%. I think it's a scam that people can just sneak in the country, pop out a kid. Oh, they're a citizen. Now I have to move here and live here, and I'm a fake citizen, basically. But if you think about it, well, illegal immigrants are cheap. Businesses love illegal immigrants, okay? They love H-1Bs because they can depress wages and maximize their corporate profits. Well, if you get rid of cheap labor, what does that leave you? Well, that leaves you with more expensive domestic labor. That's right. Sounds a little inflationary to me. And then Trump wants to extend the Trump tax cuts, which I love the Trump tax cuts. I mean, I benefit from them specifically with my business. I get extra deductions. I get the QBI deduction. You know, maybe he'll bring back 100% bonus depreciation so you can just deduct every freaking asset you buy basically all in the first year. But if he brings back the tax cuts, so that's an issue because our government deficits have exploded. And there's clowns out there. It doesn't matter. The deficit doesn't matter, bro. U.S. stocks, bro. U.S. deficits, bro. U.S. dollars, bro. U.S. bonds, bro. Vertical lines in every single category. Well, I actually disagree that government deficits don't matter. I mean, sure, the government can go into debt, and, that's fine in some circumstances. But if the government has a budget, and we keep running massive deficits and the bond market revolts and they have to refinance at higher interest rates, well, the government's going to have to spend more and more money. Now, the government will never default because we can just issue our own currency. We're never going to default on the debt. But if our debt starts to spiral, I think it's probably going to result in some kind of inflation to bring the debt down in real terms. So Trump wants to extend the tax cuts during a time when the economy's hot already, our fake economy, which is funded by deficits. He wants to keep these tax cuts going when we're running these huge deficits. Well, the bond market doesn't like that because that's not going to change anything. And then he talked about no taxes on tips. Okay, well, what does that do to government revenues? That brings them down. And no taxes on Social Security. Outrageous. Outrageous, okay? The boomers are some of the biggest beneficiaries of all the government programs, which a lot of us, while I think we'll get them, will not be as generous as they were in the past. And the boomers had a whole lifetime to acquire assets during raging bull markets in the United States. So most boomers should be millionaires. Every one of them. It's unacceptable if you're not a millionaire as a boomer. But Trump wants to not tax Social Security. So right now, the maximum amount of Social Security that is taxable is 80%. And 85%, excuse me. And most states don't tax Social Security. It's like an incentive. So now we want to increase deficits even more by not getting revenue from Social Security. Why? Okay, so you look at every single action and it seems it's inflationary. And when bond markets react, which they have been, I think we're flirting with 5% 30-year yields. We'll see what happens to the 10-year too. It's going to put a damper. It's going to put a damper on anything that Trump can do. Because if the bond market gets really pissed off, and rates and yields go even higher, our government is going to have a crisis. It's going to have a crisis. We can't run these massive deficits, keep spending more and more interest, and then don't think inflation is going to result from it. Okay? So while I agree with a lot of Trump's ideas, except for like some of the Social Security, I think that's stupid, and no tax on tips. And I don't really necessarily agree with all the tariffs, but I get it as like a negotiating tool. Overall, I don't think he's going to be able to keep a lot of his promises because our government's finances are a freaking disaster. And it's frustrating to me to see, Americans brag about how amazing their economy is when it's all fake. It's all a sham. It's all subsidized by government deficits because we're not taxing the country enough to actually be responsible fiscally. That's the freaking problem. Okay? Oh, we got magic soil here in America. It's all freaking fake. It's all nonsense. So we'll see what happens. Maybe Trump is a miracle man and maybe the economy vertical lines and we pay off the debt. And, we slash the government with Doge, which I don't think is going to happen. It's too entrenched. The corruption of those scumbags in the government runs too deep. Congress ain't going to vote for it. Maybe some miracle will happen, but somehow I doubt that. So what do you guys think? Do you think Trump's going to be able to keep a lot of his promises, or do you think the bond market's going to give him a nice little clapping and put him back in his place? Let me know in the comments below. Like, subscribe, check out my tax preparation services. I'm a certified public accountant. I do business and personal taxes for every state in the United States. If you click the pinned comment, you can see all the information about my firm. You can book a free consultation with me. I'll talk to you for free. I'll give you an upfront quote after I review your tax situation, and I will do your taxes probably cheaper than TurboTax, which is a scam, and definitely cheaper than your CPA. Have a wonderful day. Cheers!